because, once again, Democrats are going to come in late. They're going to come in late in Pennsylvania. And clearly in Georgia, what's happening is that Democrats are not overperforming in DeKalb and Cobb and Fulton. You have to overperform because Donald Trump is doing 4 points better in some of the rural areas. So, again, Democratic cities tend to come in late. I'm seeing that pattern once again. I have, good information that Philadelphia is going to come in much stronger than in 2020. And by the way, in some of these areas, you can compare apples to apples, but Kamala Harris has had to build a different coalition. So I'm also looking in some of these suburbs, if the issue of abortion, the threat of democracy, if it works.
I'm hearing that it looks like Senator Casey has a very good chance here. I mean, from the beginning, Governor Josh Shapiro and others have told me that he is the most likely to win here. His father was a governor. He is a scion of a very famous family here, also from Scranton, like
Thanks so much.
President
Let's go to
Biden.
the wall here. You can see the 3 blue wall states right up there right now. Kamala Harris with a lead early in the night in all 3 of those states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all about the same margin, by the way, 52 to 47 Pennsylvania, a similar lead in Michigan, and with 18% of the vote in Wisconsin, 51 47.
Very close, still very tight, and a long way to go. I mean, that is the message coming out of the Harris campaign tonight. I think they are encouraged and buoyed by what they are seeing in Pennsylvania. I think, when it comes to Georgia, I'm hearing that they are pointing particularly to the suburban support that they're getting there. They say they are tracking slightly above expectations among suburban early voters in Georgia. They also are pointing to the rural turnout in Georgia. They say they're not seeing signs of some surging rural turnout. They, of course, are waiting for results from those larger rural counties. But look, they have said all along their most straightforward path is to win the blue wall states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. They have put a lot of energy and effort into those 3 states. But again, they always said this was going to be a tight race that was going to be won in the margins.
Democrats throughout the Sun Belt, whether it's in the non-battleground states like Virginia or like Florida, or whether it's in the battleground states, Georgia and North Carolina. Look, anybody can still win there, but you don't see any sign that Kamala Harris is running away with anything. What I just heard from a top Democrat who is following this as close as anybody, it was always going to come down to the blue wall. Everything else is gravy.
Which is why you feel like that pit in your stomach, no matter what side you're on tonight, as you look at the map coming together, a very competitive race. And it would look like, Rick, if the Harris campaign has a path to 270, it's looking more and more like it's got to be through that blue wall, the Rust Belt, and Wisconsin.
Let's head to Matt
take a
Gutman
look.
now. He's in Philly tonight. Matt, we're seeing roughly 22% of the vote now. Vice President Kamala Harris seems to be holding on to her lead over the former president. As we know, Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes of any swing state, Matt.
19 of them, Kira, and the math doesn't work for either candidate unless they win Pennsylvania. And Kamala Harris jumped out to a very big and early lead. That has dwindled to what we are seeing right now. And this is why there's so much focus tonight on the count.
66% of the vote in. We'll dive into where that vote remains. In Pennsylvania at this hour, Kamala Harris holding on to a very slim lead in the very important state, Keystone State, 19 electoral votes. Very difficult to win the White House without the state of Pennsylvania. As you can see, about 43% of the vote in at this hour. Kamala Harris with the slightest of leads there.
To the economy. And even those Democrats who were out canvassing for Kamala Harris knew that was an issue. Like, how do you explain to people the economy that people trust Donald Trump more on that? And they said, well, we tell them it just takes time. So that message was not really resonating. Nevada has the highest unemployment rate of any state in the country. They were devastated after COVID. And that is the issue. You can talk about exaggeration. You can talk about them calling Puerto Ricans garbage. You can talk about all those things, but it came back to the economy. They can hear lies. They can hear mistruths. They can hear exaggerations. But their truth is their grocery bills, their gas bills. And that's what it came back to on many, many people I interviewed.
Wow, 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 folks. Did I call it or did I call it? Again, as I told you before, Martha Raddatz, absolutely disgusting, absolutely deplorable. She lies so much. It's amazing that she is still employed. by the Alternative Broadcasting Corporation, anything but conservative, ABC. But yet they keep her there because she keeps the narrative on. Trump derangement syndrome runs through her blood. It's a virus that has infected her. There's no medication, no prescription that can be given to her to clear her of her TDS virus. Now, did you hear how the narrative she was spinning on this? That, oh, you can call them garbage. Did she mention about Joe Biden calling all of Trump supporters garbage? The lies about the economy, about immigration, as if everything was coming from Donald Trump and from the conservative and the Republican side, but failing to mention that it just takes time, she said, that the Kamala Harris campaign and the surrogates were telling people, and as she was out there meeting with all these Kamala supporters, just saying, like Bill Clinton, I'll feel your pain. It's just going to take time. 3.5 years? How much time do you need, Martha? These people literally have no shame. They don't. It's the lies of omission and the outright lies and the narrative that they want to spin. And you can see it. There's fear in her eyes, folks. There's absolute abject fear in her eyes because she knows that the walls are crashing down, especially the blue walls of the Democratic Party. And she knows right now, early in the night, that there is no way that Kamala Harris is winning. But they just can't call that right now. They're going to try to extend this on as far as they can, knowing full well, again, the lies of omission. Folks, grab some popcorn, grab your favorite drink, sit back and relax because there's so much more. It's so juicy to watch this stuff because you know what it does? It brings a smile to our faces. Let's continue with more of the meltdown of ABC on election night.
Us. I mean, she still is leading among Latino voters, but not by the margin that President Biden did 4 years ago. And that's got to be very concerning for the Democrats and the Harris campaign, Mary.
Yeah, look, I would just remind over and over again that they had said from the very beginning, and they're saying again tonight, their most straightforward path is through those blue wall states. And when you look at what we're seing coming in, that certainly seems to still be the case, and I suspect is still their
Looks
hope.
like it's going to be a close state.
Interesting. The battle for Pennsylvania, Donna. What do you make of it?
First of all, I've taken my meditation early because, once again, Democrats are going to come in late. They're going to come in late in Pennsylvania. And clearly in Georgia, what's happening is that Democrats are not overperforming in DeKalb and Cobb and Fulton. You have to overperform because Donald Trump is doing 4 points better in some of the rural areas. So, again, Democratic cities tend to come in late. I'm seeing that pattern once again. I have good information that Philadelphia is going to come in much stronger than in 2020. And by the way, in some of these areas, you can compare.
I'd just like to ask, what information? What information? See, again, these guys are just getting disinformation. They're just the campaigns are just trying to pump it. They can't, of course, what do you expect? They're not going to say that we're losing out there, but she's got good information that the cities of Philadelphia and Detroit and Wisconsin, they're all going to come in late. But she, early on, did she say that she took her medication? Maybe that's what's making her loopy.
Apples to apples, but Kamala Harris has had to build a different coalition. So I'm also looking in some
now
of these
she's talking about a fruit
suburbs,
salad, apples to
if
apples.
the issue of abortion, the threat of democracy, if it worked in those areas in terms of pulling out a
This
vote.
is just one of those really strange ones to see a 4,000 vote edge. A lot of votes left in the Democratic areas. Those are our bluer dots. But again, it's just not. One of the things that strikes me, David, looking at the map as it's filled in so far, the fact that the Democrats are sweating some of the places that should have been safe. We haven't made a projection in New Hampshire. We haven't.
Really tough night it's shaping up to be for Democrats in the Senate.
Eva, thank you, Mary Bruce. You've been in contact with your sources at the campaign. What are they saying about the night? I gather they'll say this was the path that we knew we were working towards, and that means it's a late night.
Bingo. They feel they knew
Bingo.
this was going to be tight. They knew this was going to take a long time. The message coming from the Harris campaign right now is just everybody wait. They are not prepared to say at this point that it's blue wall or bust. They still feel that they have a chance in North Carolina and Georgia, that some of those places that are left to report out may be more of their supporters. But look, they always knew that this was going to be a very close race and was going to take a lot of time, and we certainly are seeing that play out right now.
We can project another winner here in the state of Iowa. Former President Donald Trump picks up 6 electoral votes in the state of Iowa. This is particularly interesting. We thought Iowa would go to Donald Trump, but then a lot of news in the last few days before this election. The final Des Moines Register poll from J.N. Seltzer, obviously respected political scientist.
Yeah. And so what was that all about, remember? J.N. Alka-Seltzer? Oh, she's buying that by the ton, folks. And probably bottles of liquor as well. Because she's gone. She's out. I mean, she has no credibility whatsoever. Her poll came out, was a complete farce, complete fraud. It was to change the narrative because they knew what the hell was happening with Kamala Harris. And they had to come out with something to stop the bleeding. So everybody said, oh, what a shock. If Iowa is +3 or +4 for Kamala, we got a shot at Texas now. We got a shot at Florida and Ohio. That's what the prevailing Democratic wins were talking about on that weekend when this dropped before the Tuesday election, before this election night. And you saw everybody just gravitate to it on Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, on the legacy medias. And 17-point miss, folks. 17-point miss. A monkey could have thrown a dart at numbers and done better, folks. A monkey could have been better than Ann Alka-Seltzer. Good luck, Ann, in the future, because no one's going to listen. Would you pay money to her now? A 17-point miss? Amazing, folks. That's the kind of narrative, the kind of bullshit that we were getting throughout this campaign. The psyops that was occurring from the legacy media to do anything, legal, illegal, to prop up Kamala Harris as, wow, look at everything's behind her. The people, the pundits, the machine, women, every demographic group, and the polls. I mean, she's got to win.
But there are going to be a lot of questions about what she missed in the poll.
I mean, she was tracking a narrow lead for Kamala Harris. It sent shockwaves throughout the political world. What it could mean
bullshit
for other states, not just Iowa. So to see Iowa coming in for Donald Trump and apparently by a very convincing margins, looks like a serious swing and a miss from a usually reliable pollster.
That's right.
I'll head over to the big word.
That's right, which is the most Republican of the counties. So she's got to like these numbers. You're losing by 45,000 votes. That's never good, but it's better than the opposite.
But just look at this. This is a 1,000-vote race in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, you do this to us every time. You're doing it to us again tonight. Between these two candidates, a very close race.
Let's look at some of the votes here. Harris isn't even close to where she was last time in Green Bay. A bunch of places where you're just not seeing the Harris numbers and you are seeing the Trump numbers. It's very striking. Less than 5,000 votes in Wisconsin. And again, that is the only path she has left if North Carolina and Georgia don't go her way. We mentioned it on air in election night, a Connecticut on air, a 24,000 vote margin, tells you that there's something that she hasn't really been able to bring out her base in places that don't get a lot of attention in presidential.
But it's
early. We got a long way to
It's
go.
early, long way.
Yeah, Pennsylvania right now is still a problem for Kamala Harris, and an advantage Donald Trump, 100,000 vote margin, a lot left of the vote.
We're closing in on 11 o'clock here in the east, 8 o'clock on the west. 4 more states set to close, including California, with its 54 electoral votes. Your battlegrounds. I want to get right to Mary Bruce, covering the vice president, covering the Harris campaign. And basically, you got your hands on a memo that went out to internal staff saying this is going to buckle up. This is going to be a long election.
This email reads like a reality check from the Harris campaign manager to her staff. We've obtained this by ABC News. And she says what we have all been talking about, that they knew this race was going to be razor thin. She says this is exactly what they prepared for, and that their clearest path to 270 remains to be through the blue wall that we've been talking about all night. She says we feel good about what we are seeing.
Yeah,
that
right.
said, she is cautioning that this is going to take some time. She runs through those blue wall states,
Just
saying
go
in
home, get
Pennsylvania
some
they
sleep,
overperformed
folks.
turnout expectations in Philadelphia. She says they're seeing especially high turnout with large non-white
Right.
and student populations. And then in Michigan and Wisconsin, she notes, they are still awaiting a significant amount of the vote to come in Michigan, pointing to Detroit, also saying other results in Michigan are harder to parse. In Wisconsin, she points to remaining vote in Dane and Milwaukee counties. And then what she says, David, is what we do know is this race is not going to come into focus until the early morning hours. David, she urges their team to, quote, get some sleep and get ready to close out strong.
John?
But can I say that is absolutely the message that we're hearing tonight from the Kamala Harris campaign. But I am also talking to Democrats, not precisely on the Kamala Harris campaign, but with very much a vested interest
Here
in what's
comes the
happening
real
here,
truth, folks.
who are feeling that this is looking very bad for her.
No shit, Sherlock.
Who are very concerned about the trends they're seeing, both in those Sun Belt states, concerns about what they're seeing in Wisconsin, and seeing a path. Sure, this is not over. It's certainly not over, but seeing it as a very steep and narrow path for Kamala Harris. A lot of deep concerns among Democrats, very vested in this campaign. Although, to be sure, as you've heard from Mary, the campaign, the Harris campaign, still very much sees a path and says this is going to be long and we need to be patient. And I think when they say long, they don't mean a long night, they mean a long week.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, that's sobering, John Carr. Appreciate
I
it.
just opened up when I heard Mary said, I said, oh, I got a memo finally. Look, I've worked on too many Democratic campaigns to throw in the towel. This is when it gets really good. If you're a good Democrat, you know you got to step past
Be a good loser
to find some joy. There are some outstanding ballots, and of course, Philly. We talked about Milwaukee.
Delusional.
I'm still waiting for Detroit to come in because for the first time, Wayne County allowed people to vote on the same day. It's going to be close. We're not going to win all 7 battleground
You're not going to win any.
The blue wall is clearly more important than ever. I don't want to feel like 2016. By 11:20 at night, we were calling into Milwaukee to say, there's nothing left. Well, if you call into Milwaukee now, there's still a lot of votes left. Philadelphia, a lot of votes. So be patient.
Tons of
Democrats,
votes.
don't
Tons of
go
votes.
running for the refrigerator and finding a beer. Just be patient. We're not there yet.
Donna Brazil asking the country to be patient. We do have some news coming in here. The decision desk.
It is amazing to me that this woman, who is a race hater, race traitor, and a race baiter, a liar, a known cheat, who gave actual debate questions to Hillary Clinton in 2016, and is still able to come on. It just tells you the incestuous nature of these networks. Look, even Fox News hired her for a while to bring her on in diversity. So, we've got another liberal leftist Democrat on our panel. We're fair and balanced. But being a known cheat, a known liar, as I said, a race hater, race baiter, race traitor, and now she's still lying about, and I really, I know full well she doesn't believe anything that she's talking about, but she can't just bring herself to say that it's over. It's done for from the Harris campaign. You even, a gentleman there saying that, from the sources that were coming, that weren't on the Kamala team, but outside Democratic sources, saying they're very troubled with the trend. They don't like where this is going. And I think it's Jonathan Karl. He basically says, yeah, but there's still some time and there's still a chance. So which one is it, John? Is it the 99% that you're saying that it's over? And the 1% in which it's not, which it really is? I mean, make up your effing mind, for crying out loud. But that's what you're going to hear from these people throughout election night, folks. And that's why people are tuning out of the legacy media, because they can't bring themselves to tell you the freaking truth when it's staring them right in their face. The spin is unbelievable. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you've been done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow the show. Know what to do. Put your comments down below. Where you're standing on. What do you think of the commentators? What do you think of the, the hosts, the anchors, Donna Brazil, Jonathan Carl, Martha Raddatz, all of them. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, y'all take care and stay safe.